All right, let's go. Welcome everyone to the Mind Game of Basketball podcast, one-on-one with yourself. Today we are very happy to welcome to the show Jaycee Carroll. Jaycee, I don't know if we need to introduce you at all. Amazing career as a pro player, notably for about 10 years with Real Madrid and before that with Gran Canaria. And amazing also college career for the ones in the US as well. So thank you, Jaycee, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure. Honestly, I'm really excited to get on with you, talk a little bit about basketball and whatever else it goes. I don't get to do it all the time, so always happy to spend some time reminiscing.
All right, fantastic. So we're gonna try to keep it short, about half an hour, even though we could talk for hours with your experience. Let me try to give a little bit of direction to where we're gonna go with that. Or is there something that you would like to start with, actually, with the mental game in basketball? Is there something specific that you would like to talk about first before I try to direct you with my questions?
I think your questions, well, I'll be able to get to wherever I want to go. If you don't, I'll make a note right here of something I have in mind.
Okay.
And if we don't get to it, then I'll bring it up.
No problem. Sounds good to me. All right. So first of all, you were like a great player. You just stopped your career like 2 years ago, having a lot of success. Me, I know that I enjoy watching you a lot because you're a small player, small size player. Even though you work with your athletic size, I mean athletic side of it, the body, you're not the most athletic player on the thing, and you always manage to be clutch, to be tough, to be consistent in your performance. And as a basketball lover, I'm not talking about Real Madrid or any other team. As a basketball lover, you had to respect and love your game for sure. So, What made you the player that you became, knowing that in high school, in college, and through your career in Europe, you managed to develop that killer instinct and your role as a shooter. So what made you that player, and how did you become that player in terms of the mental aspect of the game?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Those are kind words. I spent a long time playing and trying to always play my hardest and do my very best and maximize the gifts I was given, right? And how did I build that mentality? As I look back, I started out life playing and competing at a high level in individual sports, specifically swimming. From the time I was 4 or 5 years old, I was competitive swimming, and I think that gave me a really great foundation to start and learn how to be competitive and compete in any aspect of life in any sport. As I and through that process, I learned discipline. I mean, in kindergarten, my first year of school, I'd go to school and then I'd have to ride my bike up to our high school. And at the high school, I'd jump in and I'd have an hour and a half of swimming practice. Now, for those that haven't ever swam competitively and practiced, I mean, it's boring. It's long. You are in the water. You can't hear anyone but your own thoughts, and you're only one to blame if you win or lose is yourself. Did I work hard enough? Did I show up on time? Did I put in all the effort I could, do everything that I was able to beat the guys in the lanes next to me? And so I spent from ages 6 till like 15 competing in swimming. And I think that's where a lot of mental toughness started to develop. Hey, I'm getting tired. It doesn't matter. I can still see the guy kicking in front of me. I've got to catch him, right? A lot of mental toughness was built up over that time frame in my life.
So a lot of time with the self-talk, right? A lot of time talking to yourself, and again, we talk about mental skills, and people are thinking that because they read a book or they listen to one podcast, or eventually going to talk to some mental performance coach or sports psychologist for 1 or 2 sessions, or even 5 or 10 sessions, doesn't matter. They believe that it's going to be okay, and it's over. But what you're saying right now is from 6 to 15 years old. It's the consistency that made it, like that you developed your self-talk and your character, your personality, the resilience, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the resilience, it's the compounding interest over time. I work in money and finance now. If I could convince 10-year-olds to start investing $100 a month, they're going to be so much better off. And I just was able to make those mental and competitive deposits every single day starting at a young age. So when it came to playing Olympiacos in the EuroLeague final and I have to guard Spanoulis to start the game, it wasn't, oh no, I can't do this, oh no, they're better than me. It was, hey, I've competed against the best in the world at this before, it turned out okay. I've done this, I have this memory bank of experiences, of challenges that I faced that I could draw on. It's like, okay, it's Spanoulis, I respect him, it's Olympiacos, they're amazing, but I can do it, right? I can do it. That positive self-talk, I can do it. I can be successful. I can be competitive. And then you go out and try to do it. At the end, you might not have been, but at least we believed it. And even when you do fail, it's not, oh no, I'm no good. It's, okay, what adjustments can I make so next time I get a better result?
And was it the same approach that you had to become such a great shooter? I mean, to for the people who don't know, like you regularly shot around like 45% with 3 point, amazing free throw shooter as well. So, and actually, I had one question because looking at your stats, we see that you were regularly on over like 90% free throw shooting, and you had one of your last seasons when you are 10% under. Is there an explanation on the mental side of it? Because when you talk about it with so much experience, with so much, like you just talked about, adding to the bank, so much experience through the years of being consistent. If I may, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. If it's personal, it's none of my business. But was there a reason that made it that your percentage lower for 10% on that free throw percentage on that season?
Yeah, you're probably talking about, I'm not, was that my last season or second to last season
Second
when
and
it
last.
dropped? Second to last. Yeah, honestly, as I look back on that season, yeah, there were mental aspects that were hard, personally, individually, and I was going through some hard stuff in my life individually that, yeah, made basketball at that time a little less important, um, into the spot that it normally was. So I guess I actually never really paid attention to that. I didn't realize it dropped 10%. But also when you look at that, I don't think I think the frequency of free throws I shot was probably down. I don't think I shot as many. And so yeah, it's funny, my free throw shooting, when you're shooting 45 free throws in a season, um, and you miss four as opposed to eight, it's only four more misses, but it probably drops your percentage 10 points. You understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
So you look at it like, oh, the percentage was 10 basis points different. But when you look at the hard misses, there's probably four more misses than normal,
Right.
which isn't good. But when you're on a tall, if I was shooting 100 or 150, like I did in college, and then you drop 10 points, you go, okay, what's wrong? But
Of
yeah, there was definitely mental aspects of it. I remember my last two free throws I shot in my career. It was against Barcelona, in the playoffs. We were losing. We were gonna lose. The game was over. And yeah, mentally, I was in a different place than normal. I got the ball, I got to the foul line, and honestly, the thought through my head was, these might be my last two free throws of my career. It really was. And I think I made one out of two, or I might have missed both of them. Mentally, I wasn't present in what I was doing, and it affected those shots.
Well, we're talking about an exceptional situation, right? You're talking about the end of the career, like talking about a game that's over. So it's not about the performance, it's not about the consistency. That's completely extraordinary, right? But it's
Yeah.
true that again, we have talked in the past in the podcast about free throw shooting. Like I told you offline earlier, to me, mental performance isn't just about this. It's about mental health. It's about mental performance in basketball, and it's about basketball IQ. And it's true that when we see, for example, Nick Calates shooting less than 50% in the free throw line. Nick Calates was such a great player in the EuroLeague, like very smart player with his basketball IQ. And you really want to help him out. And I'm not saying this how, like Fenerbahce's squad and staff is amazing. They have everyone professional and ready to help them. but this is the situation. He's shooting less than 50%. So that means that at some point he's actually better, close to be better on the 3-point than on the free throw line. And we talk about a huge EuroLeague player. That's where I believe it's my perspective, and I would like to hear about your idea on the topic. But do you believe that there is development that's possible? Like our generation, we're from the same year, we're 83. Our generation, we were developing the technical skills. Eventually, like physical skills, athletic side developed. And then the last few years, we have a lot of individual skills trainer developing fundamentals and working on fundamentals. What do you feel like, at what level do you feel we are at right now on the mental aspect of the game in terms of development, according to those three categories that I told you: mental health, mental performance, and basketball IQ, knowing that you were part of one of the best like organizations in the world in terms of being there for the players?
Yeah, I think it's still behind. And when I say that, now in the media and stuff, mental health has become the forefront. Athletes not playing, or athletes, hey, taking breaks because they need mental. And I think we're waiting too far until it's, hey, I really don't know how to handle myself. I don't know what to do from here. Now I have a mental health issue. When really, if we were taking mental health development as seriously as we do, physical development, skills development, basketball IQ, these would be things we would take seriously every single day in practice. So just again, that same compounding interest, right? Every day, I lift weights 4 times a week and it compounds. I shoot 500 shots a day, that compounds. If I was to say, hey, I'm going to spend 15 minutes every day working on certain mental aspects of sports activities, our mental health will be so much healthier. And we don't have people saying, hey, I'm stepping away from professional sports because of health issues, as we've seen recently with some Spanish national team guy, which is just fine. He's earned that right, but we could definitely take some more time to develop those skills early on and not wait until there's a mental health crisis.
Right. I couldn't agree more with you. And I think that people are starting to be aware of it. They just don't know how to get organized, who to trust.
Yeah.
Me, I'm not in war against sports psychologists at all. I think they have their own job, which is very important when people have traumas or when they go too far, like you just explained. But the thing is, I believe people in my profile being like understanding the game, understanding what it is to be a player, knowing the specific needs, and to be able to actually collaborate with the staffs as well is also important on a day-to-day basis to help players, with simple things like setting objectives, understanding your roles, dealing with the emotions, with the frustration, but also being able to be performing specifically, like we talked about the free throw shooting, but it can also be about, time clock management. How often do we see a player stepping out of bounds? You're gonna explain to an 8-year-old player, listen, those are the lines, and you cannot go out of bounds, right? And actually, in several games, in many games during a season, you're gonna see a player, notably in the corner or on the sideline, and stepping out of bounds. And you have those staffs made of such great coaches preparing all those set plays, scouting, and making sure that you're in great shape and everything. And then the player is not aware of where he is on the court and turning the ball over like really stupidly. And those things are, to me, part of the mental performance. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I agree. And it's not just like organizationally, we need the teams, hey, we need this type of training, or we need a sports psychologist or something like that. It comes down to like individual players need to take it seriously. You show up to the weight room, you can see yourself get stronger. You go and you shoot shots, you can see yourself get, you can see those things. But even, players, I'll be honest, when we're young and we're healthy and we're playing at a high level, there's a sense of invincibility, a sense of, hey, my mental health is fine. I don't need to exercise this muscle. But if we could change that conception that, hey, this is a muscle just as much as my lungs or my heart or my biceps or my legs, that it needs to be trained every day. we could have a lot stronger, mentally tough people, which would be good for not only sport, but for life in general.
Exactly.
So anything we can do to start to build those mental muscles is a step forward.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. It's something that
You
we,
know,
I mean,
yeah, no, sorry, but like you said, when I had the worst, personal crisis of my life a couple years ago, um, I was lucky enough that I had tools and resources of how to deal with it, that I didn't need to step away. I mean, there were moments where I was like, you know what, I might need to step away from sport. I mean, I'm not joking. It was close to like I might need to just go and say, Pablo, I need a month and a half where I'm just out. And I didn't get to the point where I had to do that because I did throughout my life and the way that I was raised and built up. I had people, resources, I had mental tools that helped me overcome that. But there are so many people that didn't grow up as fortunately as I did, that when that crisis happens, they don't have the tools to deal with it.
of course, of course. I mean, you talk about tools first as education, but also like you talked about the environment is huge to be able to have people to count on. Um, is there like according to all what you just talked about right now, is there like something specific that you would like to eventually give as a tool for like what did you use yourself, you know, to be, we talked about mental health through all those games, all those seasons, with all the pressure and like you said, the ups and downs. I mean, you won 2 EuroLeague champions, like five ACB league, ABC league, but at some point it's like it's not just consistent. It's not just blue skies and roses, right? So
Right.
how could you help players, like give a little trick that you had to eventually enjoy the ride, you know, enjoy the process through all those adversity?
Right. It's tough. And for me, my support system that I was able to fall back on was, my faith. I'm a religious person, and I had a faith that, there's something bigger than me. I'm on this, there's a purpose that I have on this earth, and whatever that is in other people's lives. Some people, maybe it's not praying, maybe it's, meditation, taking some time to be by yourself 15, 20 minutes a day in the morning, and you meditate and you think about all the positive things you have going on in your life. Because even at my very lowest, I could sit and pick out positive things in my life, and that would help get me out of the hole I was in, right? And the second thing, I think you need to be able to have people around you that love you, that care for you, that will be honest with you, and that you can trust. And luckily, I had people like that. I could call and I could open up and say, I just need to talk to somebody to help me, my mind process what I'm going through. And so whether that's a family member who's great, a close friend, or professional, a psychiatrist or a mental health professional, I think everyone should have some of those people that they can rely on in their lowest. And luckily, I did have those things. In college, I took a course on the mental aspects of sports here at Utah State, and Dr. Gordon was absolutely unbelievable. I had one class with him, and I saw him. This was 20 years ago. I had the class with him. I saw him a month ago. It was like, Doc Gordon, I loved your class. And he's just like, why haven't you called more? Why haven't we spoken more? And I wish I would have throughout my whole career, like checked in monthly. Hey, man, because he's got so many tidbits and insights that he could provide to me. So players could find someone like that. Maybe
Right.
it's a former player, maybe it's a former coach, maybe it's a family member, but having some support staff around you for mental health that I think is important.
Some support, eventually some kind of mentorship, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Okay, you talked about like the environment and about being told the truth. I would like to jump on another aspect of the mental game that I think is huge, and actually shares perspective with a great coach also in Lithuania over like the Final Four weekend. It's about players holding themselves accountable. Do you
Yeah.
feel like players, I mean, again, in Real Madrid, we're going to jump on that after, but it's like winning culture. The organization, the institution is bigger than the player.
Yep.
But on the general basis, in everything that you saw, that you lived with your experience in the world of basketball in Europe, and even in US, how much do you feel like players are holding themselves accountable? Do you believe that's something that's being done, or do you think that a lot of players are hiding themselves? Because usually, when you're such a good player, you're in an environment where people love you, but also you're also the source of bringing money to home, and some people, like, you have success, people love you outside, the fans and everything, or on social media you have a lot of interest, but then do you always find someone who's able to talk to you when you're going on the wrong direction? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So accountability, I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag. The very best players I ever played against and with, they very rarely blamed other people for their mistakes. They very rarely blamed a coach for them not having success. They would look at the situation and go, what could I have done better? That's personal accountability. What could I have done to change the outcome? What can I do in practice to convince the coach, to show him that I deserve to play more minutes, or that I deserve to be in the game at crunch time, or that I deserve to take this game-winning shot? It comes back on, what can I do better? Where did I mess up? Where did I fall short? For me, that's personal accountability. And the very, very best players I've ever played with or against were like that. Now, the other type of players were the ones that weren't. Oh, he doesn't like me because of this. So if he would have passed it to me here, I could have done better. I just, him, and it's very rarely me. Those people aren't fun to be around. They're not fun to play with. And when you get to the high level in Europe, and especially at a team like Real Madrid, I think most of those people are weeded out. They don't make it to that level because they've blamed people or not been personally accountable for so many years that they just start to fall short and they don't make it to those levels.
Right. And to me, I mean, I believe there are professionals who actually are not holding themselves accountable. But like you said, we talk about top level at Real Madrid, and with
Yeah.
such an organization. And that's where I would like to get next topic. We know that Real Madrid is, again, you don't have to be a fan or social, but you only can respect Real Madrid's um, success through the years. And again, this year is even the worst. I mean, the worst in terms of manner of how they won. And again, I was at the final four, and how I saw them win. And I mean, they did the hold up like completely, and won it. But you're like, they managed to win. So what makes them a winning organization? Obviously, you have enough resources to recruit players who are talented, that's for sure. But you always have
Yeah.
several talented players in organizations. So what makes it? Because, and I'm specific to basketball, but we know that Real Madrid in football is also with a winning mindset. So in that side, we can actually like talk about the winning mindset within the Real Madrid altogether, if you feel like.
Yeah. Look, I love Madrid. I love Real Madrid. I played there for 10 years. Uh, Obviously, I've got nothing but positive experiences with them. But as you look back, Real Madrid has been, over the last decade, probably one of the most successful basketball teams in Europe. It might, if not the most, top two, three, maybe over the last decade. But it wasn't like that for the previous 20 years. If you remember, if you look back, they had a bunch of titles in the 60s and 70s. And then the 20 years before I got there, they had won, it had been 19 years since they won the King's Cup. It had been 20 years since they'd won a EuroLeague. And I think they had maybe one King's Cup, two King's Cups over that time, right? Oh, no, they didn't. They had zero. Sorry. Spanish leagues, I mean. Maybe one or two Spanish leagues over that. And so what changed? They're the same organization, but they brought in some people that saw things differently. And I'll start with Pablo Lasso. They brought Pablo in, Pablo, an extremely optimistic person. It felt like the best things were always going to happen. He was not a doomsday. I've had doomsday coaches that no matter who we're playing, they're the best team around. We're not good enough. We're going to have to take a miracle to beat them. That was a Pablo. It was understand who you are, understand where you're playing, and know you're good enough to beat all these people. And then the thing that was great about Pablo, he got a lot better at X's and O's. When I first got there, he wasn't a great X's and O's guy, but he was a great manager of personalities. You know, he had Sergio Rodriguez, Chacho, Yul, Felipe, Rudy Fernandez, me, Ante Tomic, and he was able to manage those personalities and give us a structure that we all had freedom within the structure to play. And I love Pablo. He would say a lot of times, and he'd use me as an example. He'd go, "Hey, we know Carroll is going to come off and shoot a terrible three-pointer that's guarded, and he's going to miss it. But I'll live with it." He goes, "I'll live with it because I know he'll come out and he'll make a bunch of those, or he'll make it when it counts. So I'll live with it." He said, "Chacho, I know Chacho's going to throw 2 or 3 passes into the second row of the stands, but I'm willing to live with it because he's going to make 10 great assists. They'll make us win." And so with those personalities was Sergi Yul, Felipe, Chacho, Rudy, and myself, he was able to manage those personalities and help us come together where we could win. And I think there's still those lasting effects of Pablo. And I love Chus Mateo. I'm super happy for I hope he has success moving forward. And we'll see as soon as some Pablo residual effects start to wear off. But, you know, I give him a lot of credit for the way we were able to come together and compete for 10 years and win for 10 years.
Right. No, it's always funny. Me, I always laugh with my son, who's about 9 years old, and we watch Sergio Lul, and how Sergio, when he's like basically like taking those shots, and those crazy shots on one leg and going like really high, and you're like, that guy is one of the best players in the Euroleague, and he proved it again during the Final Four. And you're like, he's either shooting an air ball or a brick, either air ball or gonna swish it, and that's his shot, and he has the freedom of making it happen. And if it's air ball, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about it because he's gonna shoot it again, and he knows that, like you just talked about, like he's okay taking it because that's his game, and he has the freedom to do it. He's doing it like with conviction. I'm sure he practices for it, and when he makes it, he makes his team win most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. Give him credit too. Mentally, he's like, I don't care if I make or miss this.
Right.
I'm going to shoot it. And if it goes in, great. If not, I'll shoot it again. A lot of guys would get, I'm not going to shoot. I airballed last time. Yeah, I shoot. That's not Sergi. I airballed it. That means I'm probably going to make the next one.
So talking about this, I actually saw on the social media a video about Klay Thompson talking about Dave Hopla. Have you seen it?
I don't think I've seen that clip. No.
He actually talked about how and Dave Hopla was one of my previous guests. And I actually was in a clinic when I was playing myself, like when I was 16 in a clinic in Trenton, New Jersey. And Dave Hopla was there and making his clinic like he always does, shooting like for 20 minutes, half an hour, and not missing just a few eventually if he misses. So Klay Thompson was talking about this and how when he was at a clinic and listening to Dave Hopla barely missing a few shots, the importance as a shooter of having the shoulders towards the basket. He wasn't talking about the feet, how there is that dilemma, should you have your feet towards the basket or towards, wherever, but he was talking about the shoulders towards the basket and how he helped him to basically tailor himself as a shooter and how he became that. Is there so, and when I had Dave Hopla, he was exactly telling this. I asked, what do you do when you miss a shot? What do you tell yourself when you miss a shot? And that's where I would like to rebound and ask you, as such a great shooter again that we talked about, what was your mindset as a shooter? What did you talk? You talked about self-talk. What were you telling yourself? How were you moving on to the next shot? What was in your mind?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, Dave Hoopla. Unfortunately, I've never had a chance to go to one of his camps. I've heard great things. I've heard stories about him talking for 5 minutes and shooting the entire time, missing hardly any, missing one shot in 5 minutes, and that'd be fun. So I need to look for an opportunity to get around him. But as far as my mindset went, and I tell this to young kids a lot, especially when I teach them like transition 3-pointers. Once you make that decision that you're going to shoot the ball, you've made that decision, and don't ever second guess it, right? Don't jump in the air and be like, oh, maybe I pass it. Maybe it's a bad shot. No, no, no. Once you decide you're going to shoot the ball, you shoot it with conviction, with the idea that you're going to make it. All right. And so that's the first thing for me. If I'm open, I'm going to shoot it. If I'm not, I won't shoot it. It was that simple. It was clear. And then for me, obviously it was like, hey, I missed a shot and I didn't give it a second thought. It's like, that's just a shot I missed. If I missed 4 in a row, I never cared because I knew percentages. I understood that I hovered around a 45 to 50% 3-point shooter. So if I missed 4 in a row, in my mind, I knew I might make 4 in a row in the next. My next shot might be the greatest shot I've ever shot in my life. So why would I be afraid to shoot it? And so that was kind of my mindset. And as I talk to young kids, I try and teach them that and show them that. Why would I be afraid of a shot that I've never to shoot a shot that I haven't missed yet? That could be the greatest shot I've ever shot. I don't know if it was a baseball movie, but with Kevin Costner, but I don't know. Or I heard a pitcher talking. He goes, if I throw a wild pitch, why would I be afraid of the next one? The next one might be the best pitch I've ever thrown. And that's just kind of the attitude I always took.
All right. Well, I think that's really, really fantastic to me because that's actually the approach that I'm developing with the players when I'm helping them raise their free throw percentage as well. Mm-hmm. And that's knowing that on the free throw line, players that still like more time to think, and that's like a lot of it of the look from others, and I shouldn't miss the scenario and everything. So it's so important to develop those skills with consistency again. Okay, Jaycee, I would like to talk to you for hours, but like I said, I would like to keep it for about a half hour because I don't want to take much more of your time. Is there something else that you wanted to add that you wrote on your board earlier?
Yes, I got one thing I want to add.
Tell me.
So as I look back on my career and in basketball, but in life in general, I think there's one thing that elite people have, or people that have become elite in any aspect of life, whether it's basketball, soccer, finance, is their imagination. Now, when I say this, when we dream or when we imagine, or when we think, we need to dream and have vivid memories, vivid imaginations. We need to see colors, see who we're guarding. And for example, for me, growing up as a kid, I was a good student in school. But as I sat in class, my body was there. I was able to do the work, but my mind oftentimes was thinking about the game the night before. This is a good play I made. Do it again. This was a bad play I made. What was the better decision I made? In other words, I constantly was running plays and scenarios in my head all day long. So when I got there to the game or to the practice, I'd already made decisions and that I was going to make that day, and it just became automatic. As I look at the EuroLeague in 2015 that we won, right? I sat and watched the semifinal game of Spanoulis and Olympiacos, and I didn't know I was going to be guarding Spanoulis to start that game, but he was one of the best players, so I was fixated on him, and I watched him. I watched what he did that game. I watched his move where he stepped to the side and shot the game-winning three-pointer, right? And then all that night, as I laid in bed, this was just constantly going through my mind. So when I showed up that next day to play against him in the EuroLeague final, I had already guarded him 1,000 times in that scenario. I knew what I was going to do. And so the importance of your imagination, I think, is something that I don't think people understand enough. When I'm in the gym by myself shooting 500 shots, I can name players that I was scoring on in my mind. From Matt Lejeski's, Brad Olison's, Chet Shelton's from high school. I can name these players that I was like, he gave me troubles doing this. I'm going to work on this skill because I know it will work against him. And so I think that vivid imagination has helped me through sports, and now it's helped me in my life as a business person, as a finance guy, because I meet with people. Before I meet them, in my mind, I've already had 1,000 conversations with them. I've already asked the questions that I want to ask. So when I get there, it becomes very natural and very easy to answer and to connect with them. So a vivid imagination, that'd be the one thing I would love young people to really study. Dream big, dream vividly.
Right. And if I may, by what you say, I think is huge, but make sure that you remember vivid, because imagining, visualization, people do it. But when you talk about the vivid imagination, you actually live it, with a determination, with real, you expect it to happen and you make it like
Yes.
it's happening. So you talked about Pablo Lasso earlier, how he was like making things like he was convinced things were going to happen, and I think that it's really important for players, because the mind doesn't make the difference between what's imaginary and what happened. And that's the beauty of our mind. That's why when we talked about the prehistoric time of mental performance in basketball, we have so much to develop. And about your experience, players might think, okay, well, that's interesting, but it's not about doing it once or twice. You talk and you don't realize, because it's your life, but you have been doing it through so much consistency, through so many years, that it takes a lot of work, like for everything else, like for shooting, like for dribbling, for physical training. It's the same. It takes a lot of consistency through. So this vivid imagination is an amazing tool, but it's true that, okay, visualize what you're doing, but give it a purpose and make sure that you do it with consistency, right?
Yep, absolutely. 100% agree.
Okay. Jaycee, it was a real honor for me to be able to share this moment with you, because you're very humble. It was real pleasure to go back and forth with simplicity. And though you gave us like amazing tools and aspects and experience from yours, so I cannot be thank you enough for giving us some of your time and sharing your experience. I'm sure it's going to help people, and it definitely helps me into building on who I'm becoming as well. So thank you for your time and your experience.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. A lot of fun to talk to you. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.